Preseason week number 2 is in the books. The Chiefs just barely lose, but made a lot of progress in a lot of positions. Tonight, we are live. Welcome to the Locked On Chiefs.
From the land of the free and the home of the Chiefs, this is the Locked On Chiefs podcast.
Welcome in, friends and neighbors, the rest of Chiefs Kingdom. Nice to see you. We're brought to you today by Gametime. You can get into it very easily. Download the Gametime app, set up your account, and use our code LOCKEDONNFL, and that's going to get you $20 off your first ticket purchase. No matter what, terms do apply, but check it out. We have a great show, a lot of ups, lots of downs that we're going to cover. In preseason game number 2, what are the roster concerns? That's coming up later. Who stepped up and who unfortunately took a step back? That's going to be later in the show. And we will get started with the behind the back pass and what it means overall. He's Chris Clark. He'll be right back when the camera starts working again. You can find him on Chiefs Corner, kcchiefscorner.com or Chiefs Corner on Substack, where he's running everything down for you, including who to watch, what to see, cap, quarterbacks, the whole 9 yards. I'm Ryan Tracy, the founder of Rogue Analytics and Performance Consulting, as well as NFL 33, where I just ran down the rookie quarterback class and what we have to face, including an AFC West rival. You can check that out right now. It is a Substack subscription, but you can get part of it for free right now on NFL33.com. Then you can find me on RGR Football, where we were live a little bit ago. Pressers have completed. We're going to be a little bit behind as we get ready for the regular season. So tonight, we're going to run it down. There's not going to be any other headline. In fact, I think unless it's refreshed since I just loaded it, ESPN still has the behind the back passes like the number one headline, because this stuff is just too funky. We've seen it for a couple of years in practice, in training camp, but I personally was surprised that they pulled it out in a ball game. I don't buy the story about it at all. What were your impressions of Mahomes behind the back to Kelce?
It's just insane to see on a football field. And I'll be honest, when I was actually live, I missed it. I saw that they completed the pass. I would look down for half a second, and I thought he just threw a regular pass. And then I watched the replay, and I was like, oh, well, okay then. And now it's everywhere. And it will continue to be everywhere, because I don't think that there's going to be any other player in the NFL that is going to try that play. And from everything I've heard, Andy Reid wanted him to do it.
I mean, that's what the broadcast said. I don't know if I believe that either, but I certainly don't believe Patrick and Kelce and their little story about how he did something wrong. That's BS. No, that's ridiculous. But it just goes to show you that they are willing. It was. And they are kind of funny when they're not standing next to each other. But it does show you what I think is the more important fact about this is that they are willing to push the envelope to do something people haven't done before, to do something different. And you have to understand that had to be a specific play, and they had to have a specific reaction. If that defensive end doesn't clamp down and come after Mahomes, there's no lane to throw that ball. So you have to get the right combination of cues to get the defense to do what you need them to do to make that pass. I think that was critical, and I think it proves their concept. Will we see it in a regular season game? I shudder to think, but do you think it's a possibility?
Yep, I do. I think they're going to do something specifically for it. I know where you sit on this, because I know you're very old school when it comes to football, and you want to see safer plays to an extent and run the ball, and I get all that. In this case, I'm against you on this one, because this is a fantastic thing to see on the football field, and it is exciting to see somebody be able to pull it off, get it done, and say what you want. It's still something that is going to be talked about, regardless of it being in the preseason. It is definitely going to be the story of preseason week number 2 and maybe even preseason week number 3.
It may be. And shout out to my guy Cody, who was on with RGR, who was at the game, and he said it literally broke Arrowhead. That's how special that is. It's just something that no one else would have thought of, and quite frankly, even Carson Wentz's reaction that you saw on the broadcast shows you that no one else is willing to try that crap. It's one of a kind. It's Jordan territory. That's where he is at this point. There is no one else.
The craziest thing is like we saw that it was a 2-yard completion, and I've seen people talk about how who cares, it was a 2-yard completion. I've seen him throw the ball 20 yards downfield like that before. He has the ability to do it. I don't expect that in a game, it would be amazing and it would break the internet if he did it. But I've seen him do it.
It would
I've
break
seen him do it at
me. I'm
training
just
camp.
going to warn you.
Oh, I know.
If he does that, you better have a defibrillator around for me. Is all I'm going to tell you, because that's
Well, you are getting up
I'm
there.
not there. I'm not ready. Yeah, some days I feel like it, buddy. Thanks for the help.
Hey,
Despite that pass, I do feel like the offense did what it needed to do. You got to get Kelce involved, honestly, but they also made a concerted effort to get Rice and Worthy involved, and I think they were successful in both ways. Obviously, the big play for Worthy didn't come until Wentz came in, but that's okay. They were still 6 targets for Worthy, 5 targets for Rice. Like in the wake of not having Hollywood, they are preparing for the Ravens and the Bengals in the first part of the season to make sure that those 2 guys are helping Kelce. And I felt like that was effective today.
I don't know that I agree with you that they didn't have a big play to Worthy. That 39-yard completion on the first drive was a pretty big play. If he keeps his feet, it may have been a touchdown because I don't think anybody's catching him. So him having to go to go down, and when he caught it, kept him from scoring a touchdown on that play because I don't think there was anybody behind him at that point. So you watch what they did, and this is something we talked about going into this game. We needed to see Wentz get in there with the first string, and we needed to see him get involved in this offense and have the snaps with the first string, because he's going to, if he comes into a game during the regular season, these are the guys he's going to have to play with. He needs a little bit of some snaps in that situation. So I'm glad that he got him. And that pass to Worthy, his touchdown catch, that was a fantastic route by him, his stutter step to get the separation and then just jet out of there and get wide open for that touchdown pass. Couldn't be much easier for Wentz on that one.
Yeah, I mean, way to help your quarterback out. I mean, you got to enjoy that. He's not the only guy, though. There were performances up and down for both of these. We're going to get to who's on the rise and who's on the fall coming up next. Summer's in full swing, and we're getting ready for football season. It doesn't matter whether you're trying to go to MLB right now and go see the Royals, or you're waiting on your preseason tickets, your Chiefs tickets for the regular season, or even those cold, snowy days. The best way to get it done is Game Time. It helps if you can plan. I fully admit that, but sometimes you just can't. And so last-minute deals are exactly what you're looking for, whether it's the section of the stadium that you want, whether it's the seat exactly that you want, or whether you're just looking for that last-minute super saver. You can save up to 60% on tickets last minute for sports, concerts, comedy, theater, anything at Game Time. This is really important. I sit in one section of Arrowhead, and I really love it. It's a zone deal, and when that comes up, I try to go all in because they give you all-in pricing with no hidden fees. It takes the guesswork out of getting tickets for Arrowhead, but for baseball as well. You can get it all at Game Time. So download the Game Time app, create your account, and use our code LOCKEDONNFL. You're going to get $20 off of your first purchase. Terms apply, but it's super simple. Create an account. Use our code LOCKEDONNFL, and you're going to get $20 off of your first ticket purchase. So download it today. It's last-minute tickets. It's lowest prices, and they are always guaranteed. If you need that much more edge on your fantasy football team, make sure that you get in the action, because our guy, Vinny Iyer, is setting it up for you on Locked On Fantasy Football. All the insights that you need, especially if you're drafting, the strategies you need right now, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day, just as we are. So please like, sub, hit the bell, get on Spotify, get on Apple Music to get the audio side, and make sure that you hit the text line. The locos are all there, 816-357-8781. Who stepped up and who stepped back? I'm going to let you start because I have too many guys to go over, but let's take the positives first. Who showed out for you? Chris is going to fix his mic here.
I just did. Ariza did a great job punting except for that last punt, but that's not going to be anything that is necessary to talk about other than just saying I thought he punted really well for the most part, and he did make a hit out of bounds, so congrats to him. I liked what I saw from Suamataia on the first drive. I haven't got a chance to rewatch the second drive yet, and that's really what I need to look at, because I'll be honest, when I watch the games live, it's really hard to be able to watch all the players you want to watch. So I have to go back later and try to get an idea of what is going on and who stood up But I thought Suamati had played well, and I think that's bodes well for Kansas City.
The reason I don't live stream games, folks, on RGR, many of you have asked, and the reason that you don't see me tweet much is because I'm hitting that 5-second back button all day long to rewatch about 5 different dudes on each play. So I know exactly what you're saying. For me, there are a couple of standouts. Steele easily didn't gain that much on the ground.
Imagine that.
But he got blown up because of a bad block by Lucas Niang at one point, or otherwise I think that screen would have worked. He showed his hands. He showed his pass block ability. He got the return. Like, there's no question he's one of the top 3 running backs on this roster right now. The 1-2 punch that you can have with him, Pacheco, I'm really intrigued about, and I think they do as well. To give him that much run that early in the ballgame, I think that's pretty much where we're at now. I also feel like Cam Jones had a better week than he did last week. I do think Jack Cochran's still ahead of him because Jack didn't play that much. But I thought Jones stepped up to the challenge to show us you should be on this roster, and he did. And the third guy, the sleeper guy for me that a lot of people kind of thought I was crazy when I was excited that they signed him. The 2 guys that they signed as UDFAs that I was most intrigued by are both guys that played in California, Steele being one of them. The other being CRW, a small corner from USC. He stepped up and he can do it all. He can play your nickel and he can play your safety roles. He can be a robber, in my opinion. He was all over the place. He's a sure tackler. He understands where his size disadvantage comes in, and he makes up for it. I believe at this point, if you're keeping 6 DBs, 6 corners, he should be on that list.
Yeah, it's crazy. I thought Roland Wallace played really well, and I was not expecting to say that. And you look at when he came in later in the game, you saw Nazi back out there and Kelvin Joseph back out there. So that to me says a lot as to where those guys are compared to some of those other guys. And I will say this. We don't need to talk a ton about this right now, but I'm starting to wonder if Clyde is really going to be on this roster, because with Steele looking the way he is, and I thought Prince ran really well when he had a chance, and the blocking was good. It's hard. Clyde doesn't do anything other than running back, and yeah, they may trust him, but I think that they have something in Steele, and I don't think there's any chance he's not making the roster. And right now, I'm not so sure that there's any way that Prince isn't making the roster as well.
Yeah, I question to see what's going on there. On the downside, I felt like the linebacker level in general, too many missed tackles right there that cause big plays. You can't miss tackles, period, but especially when you're at the linebacker level, it gets some chunks after the fact. This is not necessarily stepping back, but sideways to me. It is very clear to me that Mike Caliendo should be on this roster, but he should not be the backup guard. I feel like he has played himself into a role that he is a guard. He shouldn't be the backup center. I'm sorry, is what I mean. Norzad is the better center as the backup to Creed Humphrey. Caliendo is a guard at this point. I don't think that there's a whole lot of question, right?
I wouldn't say so. I completely agree about Caliendo. I think that it's his snap. What was it, a low snap today? You just can't be in the situation. And really quick, props to Noah Gray to step in and do long snapping. Did not expect to see that, and glad Winchester was able to come back out there. That's awesome. But yeah, I agree with you. Caliendo needs to stick at the guard position, and I do think he has a spot on this roster. I think that they trust him as one of those interior guys. And I will say I'm a little worried, because when you start getting into games and you have to start worrying about how many linemen you're going to have active, you have to wonder. I would think that Norzad is center 2 at this point, and I don't think that should be changing. I thought. And I'd have to go back and rewatch it, but I thought even Hansen snapped better than Caliendo has. So, but I don't think Hansen's going to be on this team. So, and I also want to say I agree with you on Cam Jones. The one guy that I thought stepped back in some ways, Keith Traylor. Yeah, he got an interception, but he got beat a couple of times, missed a couple of tackles. So I think that he took a little bit of a step back there. I'm not really sure what to make of the wide receiver rotation with the way things went. I mean, Justin Watson came in, or Justin Watson was wide receiver 3. Sky Moore came in right after that. I mean, you're in a situation, and Justin Ross had a catch that was great. if he was able to get both feet down. But then that screen pass to Tony just completely whiffed on his block. And I mean, he's got the size. He should have overpowered the corner pretty easy.
Well, by my count, he missed 3 blocks that were very, very telling. 2 of them resulted in TFLs, and 1 nearly got Powell tackled on the touchdown. So
that was the other one I saw.
Again, yeah. But again, if Ross makes this roster, and I think it's very close to him possibly doing that, it's because of what he does in the air to go make catches, not for his blocking. No one expects him to be a blocker. I mean, even Sky Moore is a better blocker than him. And I agree the rotation was a little bit weird, but one thing did step out to me that is one more guy that took a step back. And 4 years in the NFL, and you still can't get lined up right and not cover guys, plus you pull a holding. Kadarius Toney is done on this roster. There's no reason to keep him anymore. They don't gain anything cap-wise, as you've said, for months, but there's no reason to keep him anymore either.
Well, and I think it's pretty evident by where he played in this game where they think he is on the roster, and that's a big problem because you're right. They are going to lose $2.5 million cutting him. I mean, it's just going to be money that's going to go away. He's guaranteed. Maybe he'll get picked up by somebody else. Maybe they're able to trade him and pay some of his salary to offset and get some of it back. Who knows? We'll see. I can't imagine that they would get anything back for him, but 2 penalties in 1 play. And obviously, you know, we go back to the game last year where he lines up offsides and it cost them the TD against the Bills. So, I mean,
yeah. Maybe in fact, I'm going to break that down. That is the biggest play of Travis Kelce's career, in my opinion. And he ruined it. And so I'm going to hold that against him, I think, for a little bit.
I have to ask this because this is a guy I thought, and I don't know that I would really say step back because I never really thought he was going to amount to something, but Lucas Niang just doesn't seem to have it. We got to hope that Taylor and Morris stay healthy.
Yeah, absolutely. I felt like he had some. He's better driving inside today, at least.
Yeah, but the third play of the game on offense, the deep shot's worthy. Kelce chips his guy, and Niang can't get an angle, and Mahomes gets hit from behind. Like, I understand that's not an easy block, but you have to be able to at least get your hands on him. And he couldn't get his hands on him. That's a problem.
Yeah, it's a mobility issue, right? That's what I see.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you can't have that at either of the tackle positions.
Agreed. I think that's tough, and they are unfortunately. Chu did not help himself either. I thought he played rather poorly today.
No, he's the one that got
nearly destroyed at one.
And see, you had a better view of that than I did because my cable was cutting out at the time, so I had a little bit of a cable issue and didn't get to see that play. But that's what it looked like to me from a replay was that Chu missed a block. So to me, I would think they really need to give Driscoll a lot of run next week and see if he can push to make the roster because I don't feel comfortable with either of the other guys.
Yeah, Driscoll's. I feel he's too far from there right now for this year, but we'll find out. We know there's a lot of concerns, and you guys have some questions. We're going to give you a couple of them and try to take a couple of those questions coming up next here on the Locked On Podcast Network. When you're hiring for a small business, you want to find the quality professionals with the right fit for the right role. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. It has the tools to help you find the right professionals for your team. I'm always looking at LinkedIn. It isn't just a job board. LinkedIn helps you find professionals you can't find anywhere else. Even those who aren't actively looking or searching for a new job might be open to the perfect role. In a given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't visit other leading job sites. So if you're not looking on LinkedIn, you're looking in the wrong place. On LinkedIn, 86% of small businesses get qualified candidates within 24 hours. Hire professionals like a professional on LinkedIn. It goes down the easiest way to post your job for free is on linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions do apply. Make sure that you're ready, and if you need it 24/7, there's the Locked On NFL Today channel here on YouTube and on Amazon Fire TV, where all of our shows are on 24/7. and you can get us as well as a lot of other channels. So check that out. Roster concerns right now. Top two to me are very straightforward. Is I don't know what the heck you do with the wide receiver group or the corner group. There's at least 10 permutations per side, in my opinion, that we could see happen. And I think a lot is going to come down to next week for those two position rooms.
So here's the other thing. What do you think about the third defensive end or fourth defensive end, whichever you want to look at, however you want to look at it? Are you concerned about
counting
FAU?
him anything? I am not. Is he a gangbuster yet? No, but I truly felt, and I told everyone this when he was drafted, he was not a first round grade for me. He needed a year to grow into it. So I'm treating this as though this is his first preseason. And where he is right now, I feel good about it. I think he will grow into his draft stock. I'm not concerned about it yet. Are you?
A little. He still seems slow off to get off, and for a guy that is going into his second season, I think is a little concerning. But you start getting into how you're going to run with this defensive end unit, and I'm not counting him in a Hugh because he's not going to be on the roster. He's not going to be on the active roster this early. It's going to be a couple of months, I would think, before he even gets a chance. So to me, I have a little bit of a question of, do they look for another defensive end? Truman Jones showed up at the end, but again, you have to take into it with a grain of salt. He did that against, second, third, and fourth stringers. And one thing that we haven't talked about, and we should have said early on in the show, is Detroit didn't play most of their starters. So Kansas City was playing Detroit's second team most of the game, and then they started getting into third string a little bit quicker as well. So you got to take everything with a grain of salt. I do think that there are some big question marks at the wide receiver position, and if you're right, if Tony is gone, I still think that at that point Sky Moore is 5. I don't know who 6 is.
Yeah. As far as the defensive end position, I think they're going to try to make do with Malik Herring because he can pull double duty. You saw him in a tackle today as well. I felt Truman Jones took a step forward, not just – that's kind of how I feel like it right now, but I'm honestly not sure because you're going to have Dan and Karlaftis as your starters. And then he was going to be on the pup. So Felix 3, Malik 4, maybe you do keep 5, and that is Truman Jones. Like you said, the big play came against backups, but I do feel – overall, his play was better than it was last week. And so I did see some progression.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And I think the big thing with Herring, and the reason I'm wondering if they only keep 4 is because if Herring can actually play defensive tackle and defensive end, that means maybe they can only keep 4 defensive tackles. I would still think they have to go 5 probably with the way Chris Jones and Derek Nottie are coming off of injuries. That would almost give them 6 guys that could play that role, and that's not counting busting down in Dana and Karlaftis as well. So I think they have a ton of defensive tackle depth. I don't know. It's going to be curious. And you start talking about the roster numbers and the roster concerns. You start looking at the wide receiver position. You start looking at the corner position, and you start trying to figure out how many are going to keep at each position. If they can take one less defensive end and only keep 4, and maybe FAU and Herring are your 4 or your 3 and 4. Then maybe you get to keep an extra corner that you weren't going to keep before.
That's fair. The broadcast was talking up Ekaboyedo. I didn't see him get much playtime at all, and he didn't do much with it. Same with the 6th-round draft pick, Kamal Haddon. I think both are practice squad bound at this point. So maybe that's something that could be stretched if that situation changed.
I didn't even see
we got a couple of questions.
There, I may have missed it.
I did for a few snaps. I'm interested to see what the
Okay.
count was because I only saw for a few. Yeah. I'm interested in what you think of some of these questions as well, folks. We don't usually do Q&A. I do that over on RGR, but we're going to give it a shot here for a couple anyway. After a couple of comments real quick. Afterwork musician, Kingsley was a find, and we were pretty pumped about him in the draft season. If you don't listen during the off season, that's where we go through all the draft picks, especially the guys that fit Kansas City. So we were pretty happy to see them come through and take a guy that we acknowledged was a good fit. And Mr. Jones, I will definitely be excited when Steele's on the field. Hopefully not just as the fullback, because I think he's much more than that.
And I want to point out, he was on, and they said this on the broadcast, he was on pretty much every single special teams unit as well. And that is so huge to be able to be on. Didn't he recover the fumble?
I was just going to say, yeah, Cam Jones punched it out, but he recovered it along with someone else as well. I think it was Kelvin Joseph. So he's making his presence known in a number of ways, and his pass protection is better than Deneric Prince's, which is our first question. Does Prince make the team? And right now, how do you feel?
I just want to say Ian Steele returned a kick. Sorry, I have to throw that out there. That just surprised
me.
Right.
Good point. I totally forgot about that. See, now you're doing my job for me, pumping up Carson Steele.
One of the things we always talk about on this show is you want to know who's going to make the roster. It's the guys that are playing the core special teams units. And Dave Tobe specifically putting him out there for every single unit that he possibly could shows where they feel like he is. They think he's going to be on this roster. And as far as I'm concerned right now, I think Prince does make the team. And maybe it's not because maybe it's more because I just don't really know what's going on with Clyde. I know he has sicknesses that he deals with. I know he's been dealing with PTSD, and I'm not trying to make light of that at all. But part of this is you have to be available, and he hasn't been available. And there's concerns that he won't be available when you get into the regular season, and you cannot be in a situation to have that. You feel like you have something in Prince, and I'm not saying you don't, but you have to have somebody back there that can also help out. And if Clyde isn't going to be available, I just don't. I can't see it.
Yeah. And that plays right into Mizzou 19's question. And yes, I think Prince definitely makes the roster. And it's not similar to, you can use the NFI tag after he makes the roster. If you want Clyde for the season, you have to put him on the 53, as I understand it. And then the NFI can be applied at cutdowns, is the way that I understand the rules, unless something's changed that I'm unaware of. So there's still a possibility to acknowledge what he's going through without having to just cut him loose and make him a free agent. There's also a possibility that if you were going to cut him, you could put him right onto the practice squad, let him work through himself, and when he's back and ready, you can elevate him as you see fit. I think that's perfectly acceptable.
Yeah, I'm trying to look at the NFI rules right now, and we just don't have enough time. I'm not sure that he's going to be eligible for the NFI, to be honest. But if he is, that'd be a good place to put him. He's got to get something figured out. But the problem with that is I don't know that it's going to be something that they can get figured out, because the reality is you look back at his career in Kansas City, he has been here long enough to see he misses practices because he's sick on every other week, probably, it seems like. And while those don't add up a lot, it's a question of, can he continue, and is he going to be able to play in games? I mean, and you go back 2 years when he didn't play in the Super Bowl, that was something that hit him pretty hard.
Yeah, I can understand. And so, Mizzou, we'll look that up, and we'll cover that next week on the show. So make sure you join us then, and we'll get to it. Last question of the night, and we'll wrap it up here. Thank you guys for being with us live. Make sure you like and sub and hit the bell and get on the audio platforms. If you want to see the show and you're listening, we do the post games live, so you can jump on the YouTube channel. So Mr. Jones asked, how worried should I be about FAU, and did Truman Jones play himself onto the roster? We kind of covered both of those, but just point blank, break it down. I'm not worried about FAU yet, and I don't think Truman's quite on the roster yet. You?
I would agree with you on that. I do think that it's a big question whether or not Truman's going to be able to make the roster. He has to show out next week, and that's going to be a big key. So we'll see if he's able to do that. I don't know. Right now, I'm thinking that it's possible that he doesn't make the roster. You had something else starred, and I think you unstarted. So I'm going to put it up really quick because it was the last comment that I want your take on, because I already know where I stand, and I think it's been talked about.
Yeah. And I've heard multiple comments that I didn't see that portion of it. I must have been making notes or something at the time, so that's why I wasn't going to comment on it. You did see it, okay? And that's what it is.
Yeah, that was in training camp, I think. At least that's where I saw it. I saw it actually happen in camp, where they had to stop a play and rehuddle. I don't know that I actually saw it in the game, but
someone said, I've had multiple people tell me that they saw it today in this ball game. I did not. So that is part of the problem. And that said, I don't I think he could have probably, had he been a little bit more aware in the air, he probably could have gotten that second foot down on that one ball that is his bread and butter. He ran another pivot route that I thought was okay. I also noticed some things where, especially with he's backside and he's not the primary receiver, where he's not running his routes hard. So there are a number of things that are working here. And so even though he played with the ones, I'm not sure that's where it is. And that's why this wide receiver room is wide open still.
But he didn't play with the ones when it came down to it in the game. Like, he didn't go in with Patrick Mahomes. And yeah, he came in when you started to have Carson Wentz in, but I don't think it was even early in when you still had some of the, the first offensive linemen in, at least early on. The thing that really sticks out to me, and I want to be absolutely clear on this because I get people telling me I'm hating on Justin Ross. I'm not hating on the guy. I wish he could be the player that we see come down with some of the catches that he makes. Because if he could be that player on a regular basis for this team, he could probably be a top 3 wide receiver on this team. He could challenge some of the guys and be maybe on top 3, but easily top 4 wide receiver on this team. But the problem is there are too many inconsistencies. It's not running your route every single time like you're about out of hell. And this is something I actually said. I think I said this on Twitter. If Justin Ross could play the way that Justin Watson does, he would easily be a top 4 wide receiver, and he may even be a starter on this team. I don't know who he'd push off or if they just have 4 amazing wide receivers, but if he could play like Justin Watson and be where he's supposed to be and do all the small things right, he would be a star. He could be a star in the NFL, but it's that he's not doing the small things.
Agreed. But he has had significant injury, and I am seeing significant progress this season.
That's true.
So maybe he can continue that. Could be as the 6th wide receiver, could be as a practice squad player, but as long as he continues the progression, there's still a chance. So let us know what you think about Justin Ross or any other topic that we covered today. Hope you enjoyed the second preseason game. We certainly did. There's one more where the last battles. Most of the roster is set as of tonight or as of the film review tomorrow. But there will be a few spots being fought for, and I think wide receiver and corner could be some of them, to figure out how it all comes together. So be with us all week. Matt Derrick will be back with us. We'll be breaking down this game, getting ready for the last, and then we start looking at the Ravens. So here we go, folks. Buckle up. It's going to be a lot of fun. Thanks for being with us today, especially. You have a lot of choices post-game, and we appreciate you making us one of them. I always enjoy these shows. Make sure that you come back for us during the week. We are 5 days a week plus for free on every single platform. Thanks for being here. We'll catch you next time.